Good deal. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. It's been a phenomenal series that you've been putting together here, and um, great, a lot of great minds, a lot of great coaches coming through. So I feel honored to be a part of it. Can I give you guys an idea? I coach defensive line over at North Greenville University out in Greenville, South Carolina. Just finished up my second season, going into third season here, and really looking forward to the guys that we have. So I'm not going to talk too much about fun or philosophy or things like that. My philosophy is pretty simple: treat your guys right and do the right thing. So this is going to be primarily just drills, and we start off with the stuff that we do every single day. So I cut out a bunch of the stuff that we see everybody in America doing through bags. This is just something we start off with every day, and it's to work on our get-offs. And so we're going to be here in a three-point stance. Now, we run a 3-4 defense where we're slanting and angling all the time. We don't two-gap things. Our guys know what gap that we're going to be hitting when the ball's snapped. And so we take three basic steps. We're going to take a vertical step, a lateral step, and then what we call a 45 step, which is just an angle step or a slant step. And so to start off with, because we take our reduction step or 45 so much, this is just a way for us to kind of work it and get vertical. So we're going to start with our hand right here on the edge of the bag, all right, which is going to put this foot just slightly inside. What he's going to do is he's taking the step to the numbers right here to really work on that angle, and then from there working to get vertical, all right? And so the reason we use the bag here is because when you see he goes for this first step, all right, if this step is too big, he's stepping on the bag. If the step is too short, his second step is stepping on the bag here. And then from there, we just want to be able to burst through and get to the bag. All right, so of course we're going to do the run through, footwork, all that stuff too. But this is just something we do every day that we come through. We'll do the same thing coming back. So now it's going to be our left hand. We're going to go left hand down, left foot to start, and coming off. And you'll notice that because we run a 3-4 defense and we're moving all over the place, we're in zeros and fours, our stances are always going to be balanced here. And so once again, just working our left coming back. A couple of these guys had some hand injuries. But from there, we're going to go to our vertical step. So now we're going hand right in the middle of the bag. And once again, it's just working on that step where I want to replace my foot, all right, with my hand. And so it's the same exact concept as he moves forward, making sure that we're taking that good, working that good distance in there, finding that good happy medium, and then bursting through the bags. And same thing coming back. And then now here, when we go to our long sticks, little coaching point is we'll always narrow up our feet just slightly, just so we can reach out a little bit farther. And the reason I like doing it here on the line is because now this gives them an aiming point to be able to reach to. All right, I want them trying to reach out to this line, and then off of that, we're going to plant, try to work vertical. All right, so you'll see him really try to reach out there, overemphasizing working out to that line, and then working up vertical from there. And then we'll touch the outside of the bags here just to make sure we're keeping our hips down. And then here at the end, we always work a rip off of it, because when we're long sticking, we talk about how it is a blitz mentality, right? Where I'm less worried about trying to jack my opponent up and work a move from there. Blitz mentality is get in the backfield and wreak havoc. And so we want to be able to step, come off the hips of the opponent, and then rip up through vertically. And so that's what we're working on here. Well, once again, we'll do it coming the other way. So he gets a little bit shorter step on this one, doesn't quite make it out to that line. But once again, it's an aiming point for them so they know they have something to reach for. And then from there, working up vertical, touching the bags, and ripping at the end. So that's something that we do every single day. This is something I got from Mark Ivory when he was at App State. He's now at Louisville. And I absolutely love this drill because it just works on quick feet. Do it every single day. We'll mix it up, whether we're doing 1 foot out or 2 feet out, in a way that just allows us to continue to work footwork. I mean, D-line play, biggest thing is hands and feet. And so if we can get good, quick feet, and we want to try to get in and out, not get stuck in the mud, we'll run through this 2-3 times depending on the day and be able to roll. So one of the other things that everybody in America is gonna mess with is gonna be the sled. So we'll run through this rather quick. We start off and we go over to the sled in 6-point explosion. All right, so here we're going to be coming out, really trying to work on throwing our hips into it. All right, you can see right here, he's got that great extension, hips are slightly in, working out through. Now I go with toes in the dirt. All right, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on this. Some are going to go laces down. I go toes in the dirt because I really want us pushing off of that, exploding into it and shooting our hands and really just work on launching ourselves out of our stance. All right, so we'll run through that. We'll hit 3 quick reps of it and then go on from there. So the next progression that we work, because we're always slanting angle, very rarely are we going to get head up on our backs, all right, on our sled. So we're going to be shaded outside here, all right? And now we're working on taking our 45 step in. So the first thing we work on is just shock and lock, all right? So shock and lock. So we're coming out of our stance and really want to just work on that extension. I'm coming out, I'm just shocking and locking, all right? And then we'll hold there until I break them out. And once again, it's just really just trying to work on that initial get off. The things that we talk about all the time is going to be get off, strike, get off. And so that's how we progress through everything is get off, strike, get off. I want to get off the ball. I want to strike my opponent, and then I got to get off the block. And so we progress everything in that order. So get off, strike, get off. And this is all part of that initial get off. And now we're starting to implement a little bit of strike action in it. All right. And then from there, we'll go to what we call 2 pumps. So now I'm going to do my shock and lock, but my feet are still working. And then on the second hit, I'm working to get off. Now, what I'd like to see here a little bit more is a little bit harder post because I never want that bag dropping down on my shoulder. I'm going to post it out and rip through, and then we burst through the end of the sled. All right, so this is our 2 pump here. So we'll go shock and lock, hit that both sides, and then go to our 2 pump. From there, we go to hit it and get it. And this is all about getting it jacked up and getting off of it as fast as possible. As soon as that thing hits my maximum locking point, I'm getting off and bursting through the back of the sled as fast as I can. So once again, this is some everyday drills. Once we got good at this, what we started doing is we have a lighter chute that's lighter and easier to move than this one here in the background. And what we do is we actually will push the chute around with the sled, forcing us to really get off at an angle without stepping up. And I don't stand on the sled for that because I want the sled to be able to move, but it's worked out wonderful for us this spring. I wish I had some tape of it, but it was just one of those things where you get a chute here. Now it's forcing everybody to stay low. And if you're not getting off and taking off on that very first action, then you're going to end up popping yourself on the chute before you ever make contact with the sled bag or with the sleds. All right. And this is kind of a similar way to how we used to do it before we got our new chute. And it's the same concept. So now I'm taking off at my angle, I'm coming out, and I'm working to get my hands inside. So working my step, working my hands. Our offensive players just basically just giving him a target. So he's down there, his head's up on the chute. He's giving him a chest, an area to be able to strike into. And then we're coming off, striking, keeping good low pad level, trying to get up underneath of them, and then working to full extension. And so we'll work all of our steps through there, whether it be our vertical or angle or a lateral step, working all that same concept. And it's all about just getting off and striking with our hands. Because without our hands, we're pretty much just dead to the world as a D lineman. All right, so from there, one of the things that we do every day, and I preach heavily, is COD, change of direction. I think it is absolutely one of the most underrated things that D linemen work. And I've heard a couple other coaches that are talking D line play talk about the importance of it. And I love to absolutely hear it, because the way that I always talk with my guys and let them know is a good running back's never going to run right at you, right? If I get into my hole, I get into my gap, and I'm sitting there, a good running back's never going to come at me. I've got to be able to change directions and go to where he is to go make that play, because he's not going to run to where I am. So this is one of the drills that we use for that, where we're going to line up in our pop-ups, and we're going to start off by working all of our steps at the same time. So this is what we call 45 quick hands, which means we're going to line up and we're going to work our 45 step. And all I'm doing is just working quick hands on the bag. And then we get a direction. And the thing that we're trying to emphasize is planting, all right, sinking on my hips, planting on this outside foot, and then directing down the line. All right, so that's what we're looking for here, trying to avoid doing what 11's doing here and rolling off that inside foot. Really want to plant and get down the line. Try to sink into it and work down the line. So we'll work different directions here. You see the second group coming through on that one. And then work the other way. We'll work pass. We'll draw. I'll send them off on a screen off to the sides over here. And then we're just bursting back to the line. So just trying to keep them on their toes. You see, got him over here falling off himself. But then just once again, planting that foot and getting back down the line past the line. And so this is something we work quite often. When we get into our vertical step, I really want to shoot our hands through the bag, and then we'll work keeping our feet apart across. Once again, now it's just another element of being able to have to get over something, put a foot in the ground, and then once again change the direction. So you can see we're having the foot in the ground here, planting off of it, all right? And then he's doing a great job here of sinking his hips as he's planting off of that. And so that's what we're really looking for. And then bursting through the far bag. And once again, the same thing. Get a little draw action. And then from there, we go to our lateral step. So now I'm going to shade to the left, and I'm taking my long stick, all right, to the side, and then working my quick hands again with a nice little club rip. And then once again, changing directions, putting that foot in the ground, and get down the line. So this is something that we work on quite often. The reason being is, like I said, very rarely is a good running back going to run right to you. You got to be able to beat your man and then go get to it. So here we're going to watch the nose guard. You can just see right here that they don't necessarily get the guard on him quick enough. And so he does a great job of planting off that outside foot and getting down the line and being able to get a TFL, getting his first collegiate tackle. He's a little geeked up. But it's all about being able to get that foot into the ground. You can see again here, you watch the nose guard. They're going to end up pulling their left guard. And so he's working down the line to his gap. Once again, sticking that foot in the ground and then working his way back down the line in this power scheme from the backside. So you have a nose guard who's guarding the backside A gap, ends up coming back around, putting that foot in the ground and coming down the line to make the play. And there are clip after clip after clip of this. All right, so you're going to see 11 right here. He's going to be working off the edge. They're going to work a little naked action. And then once again, being able to stick that foot in the ground and work his way back up and ends up getting a loss for like -18 or whatever it was. And, I mean, it is over and over again. And when something shows up like this over and over in tape, it's something that we're going to work a lot on. I'm not going to work things that don't show up in tapes. Once again, right here, put the foot in the ground, getting down the line. And so I can show clips for days on this. You can see here in the screen, this is going to be down the line too. So he's going to be working hip action here down the line. But it also applies in the screen game. So here you see 44 right here on the edge, seeing what's going on, putting a foot in the ground, coming back over, allowing 8 to get a nice little shot on the quarterback there. Here against West Georgia, see 11 right here, put a foot in the ground, turn and run to the screen. Ends up getting a tackle for a loss. So it shows up in everything. We work it a lot, and we will work different things coming out. We'll come out of a shoot. We have to change directions onto it, try to put those guys in as many different situations that they'll see as possible, and allow those guys to be playmakers. And so here now we're going to go to escapes from our fit. So we work something a little different. This is something that I picked up from wrestling, actually, and you'll notice his hand placement. All right. A lot of people go V and tip. So if I'm showing a guy over here who gets out of class late, we got a little V and tip, right? Well, I was an offensive lineman. And the thing that I found is when somebody was on my shoulder, all I had to do was throw my elbow up, and now I was able to get their hand turned. And when I got their elbow up, Now I can throw my hips in, and I've got you captured in the gap. And so that was how I took people over as an offensive lineman trying to reach somebody, was I wanted them on my shoulder. And I pop my elbow up and just throw my hips into it. And so what we've worked on is we'll go V, all right, and bicep. I want to grab his bicep. And initially, as soon as we start off fitted up, all right, and then from there, on that first step, now I want this foot to be a little bit more vertical, all right? So we'll do this from a standing position, and then now he's starting to work a very slow reach so we can work the movement into it. Hold this foot more vertical, but when he takes that vertical step, he's got to punch that outside hand in. All right, the verbiage we use is I want to jam his elbow into his rib cage. All right, and what that does is that allows me to pin him in as I work my arm over. All right, so I want to be able to try to stop his momentum and not allow him just to slide his hips and throw his hips, all right, around. And so we pin the elbows in, and we do it over and over and over again as we work through it. And you'll notice that we use a lot of arm overs because of it. And because we're using a lot of arm overs, because if you rip through it, you end up catching the arm. So I'll show you a rip in a second where we use it, but we use a hard arm over coming through, trying to break that off, and then we're looking at making the zone tackle on the zone off the backside of the offensive lineman here. All right, so you'll see here, all right, number 11 right here, he's going to be working out outside the tight end over here. And he's got his hand on the V, and his man hand on the V, his free hand is right here on the bicep. And then gets that elbow bent in, comes through with the arm over. He can never recover with his feet, and now he's getting back on the quarterback. Once they start getting the hang of this and they start getting it quick, once again, we're an attacking defense. All right, so we're not a sit and fit kind of team. All right, our guys don't need to be trying to hold off a 320-pounder if we can get into the backfield. And so you'll see number 90 right here. They're going to work zone out through over here, and he's using the same move except just doing it extremely quickly on the left tackle. Same move, quick arm over, and gets through in with a big-time TFL. All right? And so now we work to a rip. When we work for a rip, what we're trying to do is get more vertical. I want to get from the front of this man to the back of this man in 2 moves. All right? And so we use this primarily when the ball carrier's backside, and this is my gap, and I want to be able to stop this penetration and force this guy to either come back in or bubble out around me. All right? And so you'll see here, same thing. Get that elbow pressed in, stop his ability to reach me, and then as soon as I get it pressed in, now I'm working my escape. And I'm coming up fast, physical, and vertical. All right? Fast, physical, and vertical through the man. All right? And you'll see that being utilized here. See number 8 right here at defensive end. They're going to end up running outside zone here to our left. All right? Ball carrier is still backside, so he comes up through hard with that rip, works vertical, and allows our backside pressure time to end up coming through there. So that's when we use our rip in this, is when we're trying to get vertical within the run game, all right? Whether it be trying to stop somebody to cut it back in, or once again, force them to bubble out. From there, we'll progress to a 3-point stance. Everybody here knows which direction we're going. He's working a right-handed stance with a left-footed step, and he's working the zone right here. So everybody knows which way we're going, but it's working the same concepts. You can see right off the bat, he ends up pinning that elbow in, which secures my gap and allows me to take it over. And then from there, working my arm over, getting free. Just going to be going the other way. Skip this one. So right here, you can see, even in the run game, all right, we get a little play action here with the nose guard. Gets his extension, sees what's going on, comes back through with the arm over, gets a nice little shot on the quarterback. All right, from there, the next progression we do is what we call 2-on-1. So now he's going to be taking his step, all right, his ankle step here, and he can either get zone to him or he gets zone away from him, and we have to react off of that. All right, so the first one we get here is zone going away, and all this is the drill that we just did, all right, except he's having to react to it. So once again, he's going to work his pinning that elbow in and then work through with that arm over, getting free. All right. Here he ends up getting zone to him. All right. So he had zone going the same way before. He has zone coming into him this time. So now I want to jam. All right. And then what we call ricochet back down. So jam and then ricochet back in. Get ready to make that play. All right. And you can see right here, a handful of them going through it. All right. So he's getting zone with him there. All right. Getting zone with them. Same direction they're moving. And then he's using quick hands. He's working that move there and then comes through. Just doesn't get the arm over like we want, but ends up being able to get the play in the backfield. So right here, you're going to see 44 right here on the end against their big-time left tackle. Once again, he's working out. Tackle's working out, working that same move, trying to work the pin to get that edge, and then comes through with an arm over and chases it down the line. All right, and the reason we do all this together is because it really works and makes things easier for the double team as well. So here, this is still part of our 2-on-1 drill. This is just when we start out in double team. So now he's a nose guard, all right? So his step is going to be coming in thick on this guy right here, and he's going to be attacking him the same way that we always do. Same thing stays the same. His right hand is pinning that elbow in. His left hand is here on the V of the neck, all right? And all we're going to do is just get our shoulders a little bit more skinny to make it hard on this guy. But never once am I worried about him. Never once am I worried about putting a hand on him, trying to turn into him. I just want to make it get a little skinny. All right, and work the same move that I've been working. I'm going to pin that elbow in, and I'm going to work my arm over. All right, the thing that I may do a little bit more at this point is you'll see his left arm right here is I'm going to work to pull, all right, that guy through to help me get through a little smoother. All right, that's the one difference that changes in this when I get my double teams is I'm going to pull him through, all right, try to make it easier to be able to arm over and clear the double team. And you'll be able to see this time and time again, looking at 44 over here at the end position, all right. He's going to end up getting double teamed by the tackle and guard, all right. He's working to shoot vertical through this B gap here. Once again, I'm just working the man that I attacked, all right? Getting skinny, coming through with an arm over, and then able to get on the ball, all right? So you can see at full speed here, working that double team, getting in the backfield. All right, here you're going to see the nose guard. This is a freshman nose guard, ends up getting too high, gets popped in the chest, doesn't bring a great strike. But what he does do is as he comes through, he stays thick on the center, doesn't worry about the guard, and then arm over, squares back up, and he's there for the play. So even though he gets his butt whooped right off the bat, he sticks with the technique, he sticks with the move, and then he fights his way back to squaring up so he can make the play. All right? Right here, you're going to see 11 over here at the end. Now, where he does a great job with this one is showing how he's pulling him down with that man hand. All right? The only thing that guy's blocking now is the ground. Comes back through, squares up, and gets in on the play. So you can see it from this angle as well. This guy right here. Throws him down, squares back up, gets in on the play. And the reason that we do it this way is because it's all about simplicity, right? I want to keep things as simple as possible. And so if I use the exact same escape move in the run game over and over and over again, I'm going to get pretty good at it. Once again, you see 11 here fighting the double team, working his way through, able to get it on the play. All right, and the reason we do this is in the run game. Way I tell them is run game, we're going to do it my way. Pass game is where you guys get to have fun, get to have a lot of freedom in this. And so here's just the next progression off of it. We'll start in our fit again, once again, pinning it in, and then we'll work on our roll tackles. All right, we see a lot of zone, especially a lot of outside zone going against our own offense and then within our conference. And so we see a lot of guys trying to run away from us and us having to catch them up from an angle, getting our head on the backside, launching into the tackle, and then starting to roll on the way down. And so we'll progress to this. And you see this show up over and over and over again as well. So here's a clip of where we're going to line up. We're going to show like we're in a 3-4 or a 4-man front here. And then what we're doing is we're slanting and bringing it from the other side over here. And so you'll see 11 as they pull the guard here and they're running the counter. All right. He's slanting to work into this gap right here. And he ends up right now, he's in the exact same position that he was in that drill. You'll see him work through that arm over. Does a great job there. Head on the backside, and then works the full roll. So once again, gets in the position, arm over, and then gets his roll going. So it's easy. It's a great way to be able to try to keep things simple and be able to progress all the way through. You can see the end here working the same thing, working down the line, gets off, and then starts his roll tackle there.
Got a question, Coach.
Yes, sir.
2 questions here. What are your thoughts on dropping to a knee on a double team?
So I'm not opposed to it. And I tell my guys, you got to do what you got to do to get through. But I don't work it a whole lot because I've noticed that if I can hold my ground long enough, either the linebackers come in free or they have to come off onto the linebacker. Now, obviously, if I'm getting my butt kicked, I got to do what I got to do to be able to hold my ground, drop to that knee, and then pop back up. But we have found being able to throw the man that I'm attacking down to the ground and then come through has been just as effective, if not more, because now I'm able to stay on my feet and make a play. I feel like dropping a knee takes myself out of the play, whereas this allows me to square back up and make the play.
One more here, Coach. When you're doing these angle drills with roll, do you ever use any mirror drills or any chase drills that don't involve rolling?
So we use we'll tag off on the hip and things like that. But as a D lineman, we keep it very simple. And I know the DBs will do a lot of different other drills. The linebackers will do a ton of other drills. As a D lineman, I see two primary tackles, and it's this one when I'm working it off on the edge, and the roll's just a little extra. If I don't have to, then I don't have to. But it's just that's the one thing you have to work. And the other one is when I face up, which we call a goal line stand, which is coming up here in a minute. But other than that, if I'm going to be between 260 and 300 pounds and I can't get a running back on the ground, then I got issues. And that's kind of how we look at it is, do we spend time working tackling? Absolutely, because you have to if you want to be successful. But I look at tackling as pure will as a D lineman. Very rarely am I going to be tackling anybody my size. So everybody's smaller than me, so it's more about getting there. And because everything happens tight inside the box, those are the two that we primarily work because those are the hardest ones to execute. So I hope that answered your question there. And you'll actually see here, this is our goal line stand that we're talking about. So we work the one where he's running away. I'm trying to cut him off at the angle. He may be a little quicker than me, so I got to do my roll tackle. Honestly, I don't work open field tackles too much because if he ends up crossing my face and I'm a D lineman, I should have a ton of help in the box to be able to make that. I basically slowed him down to give other people enough time to get there and make the play. This is the other one where we see where they're coming downhill. They're trying to get that first down. They're trying to get there in the end zone. You got a little bit bigger back. And so basically we're going to start off fitted up. He's going to work the same move, pin that elbow in, work that arm over. And then I want to get my face mask in his numbers, all right, keeping my head up. This is the biggest thing. Face mask in the numbers. Never dropping my head, keep my head up. I'm shooting my hands up. All right, we call it grabbing the nameplate because that automatically brings my elbows in tight. All right, that allows me to roll my hips into them, and then I want to run my feet. The only thing he doesn't do right here is he doesn't run his feet very well. But up to that point, that's exactly what we're looking for out of this. And just run my feet through it. So you can see here, once again, does a good job of coming up. Now, I mean, he's trying to tackle somebody, little bowling ball over here, but once again, doing a great job. Face mask up, shooting the hands up, need to be a little bit better. All right, very rarely you're going to wrap your arms around somebody that big, but he's bringing his hips with him and he's running his feet. And so this is the other kind of tackle that we work on. These are the two primary tackles as a D lineman that we focus on. And you can see here, you can see on the nose guard here, this is that drill, exact same drill. He's got into the same position. He works his arm over and comes into the ball carrier, right? He ends up just falling off of the side, but it's the same concept. Here, you're going to see 88, big defensive tackle over here, hidden behind the left tackle. Working over, does a great job getting his extension, and then works off, run his hips, driving through, run his feet. This is a great example of it right here. All right, bringing his hips, running his feet, gets him on the ground. But like I said, I look at tackling as pure willpower as a D lineman. All right, we don't have a whole lot of open field tackles, and if we do, then I'm just glad you're busting your butt to get out there and go make a play. All right, so that's primarily what we're doing there for running downs, getting into a little pass rush stuff. So I start off when we're doing hip flips, starting off here on the old school bladders, just something small to really overemphasize a quick hip flip, all right? And then we'll work to the pop-ups later. And it's something I didn't used to do. You'll actually see when we look at our pop-up tape, it's how we used to start everything off, but I found that when we can focus a lot more on a small object, it makes it a lot easier to get around guys later on. And so here we're working our feet, working our hands, all right, and really trying to throw our hip around. Now, I've heard a couple people use the term foot replace, which I like, where I'm just going to replace. So here he's going to replace his right foot with his left foot and come through, but we really work on throwing hips, all right? I tell him I want our eyes down, looking on our target, all right, over top of it. And what that does is that really helps pull everything around. And now the last part of this is when I flip, the thing that I see more times than not is I see a lot of wasted movement on this last one. I beat the guy on the edge, but now I sit here and I'm taking 3 or 4 or 5 steps before I ever move upfield. All right, we tell our guys that you have 4 seconds before that ball is out. If you have 4 seconds till the ball is out of the quarterback's hand, all right, that means you have to be getting there in about 3.5. And when you are wasting quarters, seconds, half seconds on not going anywhere, you've taken away your chance at a sack. All right, so here, the thing they're really working on is I'm going to get my hips around, and then I'm focused on trying to gain ground with my outside foot. All right, gain ground and burst to the cone. So once again, see the big man coming through here, working his hands, and then really trying to gain ground. No wasted steps here. And this is what I'm talking about. All right, so you can see big boy right here as he comes through. All right, he just took 5 steps before he ever got across the line. And so that's what we're really trying to focus on, is not wasting any movement. Boom. All right, that's a good job there. And so then we'll come back the other way, trying to stay tight to the bladders. I don't want to drift. And then gaining ground on my way around. Gaining ground. And so that's what we're really trying to focus on there. All right, we'll also work the same side. So now I'm working on flipping, squaring back up, and flipping again. And I'm trying to get it as quick as possible, and then the finish stays the same. Flip and gain ground. All right, but we do it here on the goal line, so I can say, hey, you got to get your left foot back in the green before I flip. And so it's working about just real hip control. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, is hip control, being able to stay in control of my body and accomplish what I want to accomplish. All right, so you can see we're going to go the same way coming back. Once again, get my foot in the black before I flip. And then I'm staying here to force them to stay tight inside me. And then gaining ground. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll add in just something for them to shoot their hands. So I got one of the little crayons on here. Now I'm just forcing them to club and square back up. And the thing you notice is a lot of them start getting real focused on this right here, and they forget about their feet. They forget about their feet. So that's why I like this drill. Is it's starting to force us to multitask now. It's forcing us to work our hands and our feet, but now we're working both of them with a purpose. And then they got to finish off and around me. All right. So same thing. Once again, he's so focused on hitting it that he's not flipping his hips. All right. And so it's just one of those things to allow them to really have to focus in on what they're doing. Now from here, we're going to end up getting, we drop some of the cones because now it's all about taking off and being able to transition our speed into a hip flip because I don't want to have to slow down when I'm making my hip flip. All right, so it's about taking off, getting my flip, and then we finish the same way every time. Gain ground, get upfield, go make it. So once again here, getting those hips around. He wasted the steps again here at the end. All right, we call that burning out. He burned out around the corner there. Don't want to burn out. We're not out here trying to drift. We're trying to make sharp, tight turns. All right, so that's a good job there. Getting those hips around, gaining ground, changing speed. All right, too much time where he's stopping his feet, he's thinking about too much, he's slowing down. All right, so coming back through here, once again, it's a good job. Once again, turning that corner, gaining ground. And then we'll also add in an element. These guys will knock the crap out of me when I'm doing this, but they enjoy it, and we're able to work our chop at the same time. And so here, I got the crayon. It's acting as the ball. I'll either step up or I'll try to turn back on them and make sure that we're keeping high shoulder. All right, so I want them to secure the tackle, come back through, finish strong. All right, so we're working coming through. He's got to make sure, all right, that he can keep that shoulder there. All right, secure the tackle, come through with a good chop. All right, now we get into season. We got pads on. We're going to go back to our pop-ups a little bit. Here, I just want to work hands. You can see he's doing a good job of this right here. All right, number 93 really throwing himself around. All right, throwing those hips around, just working our hips, no hands. 97 is doing a pretty good job. 94 is doing a good job. 91. But you can see they're just throwing our hips around the back. All right, and you'll see here that with good hips, even with no hands, you can be effective in the pass rush. Doesn't use a single move, but just flips his hips on the guard and gets a chance to absolutely stroke a quarterback. All right, so this is a drill that we started doing this past spring, still working on it, but it's a way for us to work our club arm over, and it's a good chance to work it with beginners. All right, and so it gives me an object to be able to really club on. Now, what I don't like the fact that he's bent in here. I like to see him come a little bit, his arm locked out a little bit more. All right, and the reason they're going slow, it's on a two-hit movement right here. All right, so they're going to flip, and then on my hit, they're going to arm back through, arm back over. And the whole idea is I want to be able to get from this side of the post to this side of the post with my butt, all right, back to where I started in two movements. And so that's why we do it where they're coming through, hit, square back up. And I want to see that right foot cross back over on the other side of the goalpost. Got some linebackers in there too, trying to work a little extra drill and whatnot. And so it's just all about trying to get that moving. So you can see, trying to get to the other side. From there, now we're going to speed it up a little bit. All right, now it's on them, really trying to get through, pull myself through with the arm over. So you can see here, when Rodney, he jumped out so far, all right, that he wasn't able to clear himself back in. He had to really jump back in to be able to do it. Well, the problem with that is that gives my offensive lineman time to be able to recover on that. I want to keep things tight. I want to make it as difficult as I can on those big boys to catch back up to. All right, and then from there, here's us doing it on the pop-ups. All right, once again, I don't want to drift. I want to be able to stay tight, flip, square back up, and then come through. And then we'll modify it a little bit by moving a pop-up out. So now I'm trying to come around and burst into the quarterback. That's something we try to work on all the time, is being able to change speeds around that corner. Now, once again, trying not to burn out. You can see him burning out over here. We'll try to keep it as tight as possible. 94 does a pretty good job of getting that around that last one. Gaining ground, change speeds. It doesn't matter if I beat the offensive lineman in front of me. If I cannot change speeds, all right, and get to that quarterback, then it's wasted. All right, so you can see 90 coming in here. He's working an inside move, works the arm over, gets his hips flipped, and then burst into the quarterback. Now, he didn't get the sack, but he's got that ball wobbling everywhere, and no vert bat over here ends up just missing it, missing a pick. All right. This is a good, even in the run game. Granted, that's not what we teach for run game, but like I tell him, if you're going to be wrong, you better be right. He was definitely right here, but he gets his hips flipped, goes through with an arm over, and then gets in on a big-time TFL, the big-time point in the game. All right? And working the same thing here with a rip. All right? Coming back on the post, throw myself with the rip. And the thing I see the most with the rip is that nobody ever or very rarely do you see a lot of these young guys ripping through the offensive man. They always want to try to rip around and run around through guys. Well, when you're ripping, you've got to rip through the man to be able to stay tight and be able to bend it. Otherwise, it's wasted movement. And so here you go. This is a good picture here. Getting his hips turned and then pulling that back up and getting all the way around the pole. So just gives them an object that can't move. They cannot move, so they can show how to work the technique. So you can see here, this is what happens when we're jumping around opposed to staying tight. Gets his feet out too far from under him, ends up losing himself. So working those with the young guys, once again, doing it on pop-ups, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll modify a little bit, so now I'm ripping into it. So you'll notice their hands as they come through. So I've seen a lot of different things in this. One of the things that I like the most is when we rip through, we're going to pull our hand to the quarterback. So it'll help direct us around. You'll see this in some of the game tape here in a minute, where basically if I'm coming around the edge, I want to be able to reach my hand like I'm trying to put the quarterback's chin in my hand. All right. And so if I'm coming around that edge, it's going to pull me around, and then my hips will naturally get pulled with it. So I see a lot of people talking about get your hips turned to the quarterback. I try to pull our hand that way because our hips will get turned afterwards. I use my hips to beat the man. All right. If I'm arm over, and obviously my hips are already turned to the quarterback, but when I'm ripping, a lot of times we open them up. All right. This is just a way for them. It's an easy visual for me to say I need to get my hand to the quarterback, and it'll get their hips naturally pulled around. And so you'll see these guys as they're ripping through, they're reaching for that quarterback. So once again, you'll see it here, reaching for the quarterback. All right, so we get into the hoop series here. As you can see, I like a really tight hoop. I like a small hoop, all right? Because if I can get around this, I can get around a big hoop. And so here we're working our club arm over. So I'm taking, trying to shoot into their chest. They're clubbing, arm overing, and then you can see he's still pulling that arm around after he arm over, pulling it to the quarterback, finish to the line. So, and if they get hit in the chest, they got to redo it, come back through. If they're lunging out for the bag, they got to redo it. So we're very much on do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. And so just working on that little shoulder, little hip turn, being able to avoid contact. If he can't touch you, he can't block you. So once again, just going the other way, same drill. You see a little cone back here where we want to be able to stay tight into it. So just try to hit him in the chest there. And so here you'll see the defensive end out here does a great job. All right, he gets a little wide, but what he does a great job of is bending back in. All right, so he goes with the club arm over and bends it back in nice and tight and comes in with a great sack. All right, right here, you're going to see the nose guard. He's going to end up long sticking onto their left guard. And once again, comes through, club, arm over, gets vertical into the quarterback, ends up getting a great sack. All right, another big-time play there. Right here, you have 90 coming inside, club arm over, coming in for the sack. Over and over and over again. This one's going to be 50. All right, the nose guard right here. Working in, club arm over, gets vertical. Now he ends up getting a strip on the ball and then recovers it himself. We end up getting a big-time turnover against the #1 team in the country. And so we can show this over and over and over again where this is coming in. Arm overs. See right here, he gets a little bit more violent, throws him over, arm over, change speed to the quarterback. Over and over and over again. So let's try to get to, all right, so here we work our club rip, same concept. Don't let me hit you in the chest. Come back through. Now, people have different ideas when it comes to clubs. All right, I say there's a big time where I can be that Hulk and really come through, but we really work precision. All right, it doesn't matter how violent I can come through with my club if I'm missing. Okay, if I can't hit my target. So we work all about precision. All right, I just want to knock his hands out. That's all I'm trying to do is just knock his hands out of the way and then come through and finish the play. So you'll see our guys aren't coming back through with big open clubs. All right, very precise. Trying to make contact. Just get those hands out of the way. All right, so here, see 11 over here on the edge. Works his club rip. Stays tight, bends it back in. Ends up just missing it. Here, I think he's actually going to get a nice little shot on him. Once again, club rip, same guy. Rips it in, bends it. You can see him pulling his left hand around to him, which squares his hips back up into the quarterback and gets one heck of a shot on him. Ball's overthrown, incomplete. We're off the field. Here, you're going to end up seeing now. Our nose guard does a good job here of ripping. His only problem is he jumps, all right, but allows for our defensive end to come out there and make the play. All right, so here you're going to see an arm over and a rip on either side. So on this side over here, you have your rip. Inside here, by 50, you have your club arm over. And then they work together to end up getting a nice little sandwich sack. Here, you're going to see the same thing. All right. So you see 50 right here, working the club arm over. And then out here on the edge, you got 11 working his rip, pushing him into his help. All right, so this is how we work our chop rip. Going to have room for our chop. Yes, sir.
Got a question here, Coach. Are you using all these drills each week, or do you just vary your drills that target the same movement for variety?
So a lot of this hoop series we're able to run through rather quickly. Especially early on in the season. This is actually a little bit later here. But the way that I look at pass rush is very rarely are you going to have everybody that wants to use the exact same move. So when it comes to pass rush, I'm going to work a ton of different ones. I'm going to show a lot of different drills. But then as we go throughout the season, whatever we're using is what we're going to work. When it comes to run game, we're working this, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to get very good at it. When it comes to pass rush, I'm going to show as many, as everybody's heard before, put as many tools in the toolbox as possible. But then from there, what tools are we using? What moves are we using on a regular basis? And then by the end of the year, that's all we're focused on, is we're going to focus on what we're using. So that's a good question. So here's a little chop rip action. I like to get both crayons out here so we have visuals to be able to use it. Chop, rip through, once again, pulling with my man hand around to the quarterback. So chop, rip, all the way through. Once again, we'll do it to the other side. Be able to come around with it. All right. And then here, this is just another way where we can work on really trying to lean into it. So this is still a chop rip, all right? But when they're ripping, they've got to rip on me. So this is their hand to chop, and then they've got to lean in on me and not let me push them off the circle, all right? So I love this drill. Really forces us to stay tight. It's a good little change up, all right? And they got to try to finish through without allowing me to get up under their pads. And so you'll see one right, I think it's this, who's it going to be? All right, so here I end up being able to get in front of them. I ended up taking them off balance, all right, cutting them off. I think on this guy I'm going to be able to get, he does a pretty good job. But it just forces them to really lean in on those rips. All right. And then, of course, the good old double swipe. So double swipe into a rip. Double swipe into a rip. Working those on both sides. So here you can see number 11, defensive end right here. Sets him up. Good little double swipe into a rip. Comes back around. Just barely misses the sack. But we talk about sacks or team plays. So if he's going to end up pushing the quarterback up, he takes care of his quarterback out. He pushes him into his. All right, so sacks are defensive team plays, and he's able to set it up there with the double chop. Once again, it's going to be 11 out here. He's going to do a double swipe again. Comes through a little bit quicker. Ball's out quick. Incomplete. And then here's a little forklift action. So if they're shooting their hands up high, I'm going to end up taking my outside arm, taking that wrist up, and then ripping underneath it. So what this isn't necessarily what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to just pop it, all right? If you'll notice what Levin does through here, he's going to grab it and throw it over top of him. I really want to try to pull through and then rip off of it. And so I love forklifts when it's used correctly. Especially when I'm going against a much taller opponent, and I want to try to get up under him and make it difficult for him to stay with me. And so here you can see 11 uses a version of it here where he's going to end up throwing that up and through and then ripping through. Get a little shot on the quarterback. So this is one of my favorite drills that we work. All right, I know we're getting short on time, so we'll end it with here. Is the L drill. So we've basically just modified the basic pro day L drill into a D-line drill. So I'm going to get off. I'm going to start off my three-point stance. I'm going to use quick hands on the bag. I'm going to go chop rip, come back through with an overemphasization of hip flip around the bag, and then chop rip and get back down the line. All right. And then we'll even modify it and put a little quarterback out here. And so 11 does a great job here. Quick hands, chop rip, stay tight, flip my hips around, burst into the quarterback. And so this is one of my favorite drills that will work. And we have the diamond here where quick hands, chop rip, flip. All right. And the whole point of this is being able to stay tight, much like you would in a hoop, but now we have other obstacles in our way. All right, so you can see right here, 90, or where he's wearing 49 in this picture. He gets moving too quick. He gets too high. He ends up hopping outside of it and then working in. So that's kind of what this is working, is being able to stay tight and being able to change directions and burst. But work our bull series, little push-pull action, much like everybody else in America. But Justin, I really appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me on here. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Here's my contact information. So you guys know I recruit the grandstands of South Carolina, majority in North Carolina, Atlanta, and Northern Florida. And I'll be happy to talk ball with anybody at any point in time. Or if you guys have any recruits, please send them my way.
Absolutely. Coach, appreciate you jumping on. Does anybody have any questions for Coach before we wrap this one up? Obviously, like you said, and clearly on the screen, you can see, his contact information. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free. 2-point stands, inside foot up or the outside?
In a 2-point stance, for pass rush, I like the inside foot up, so I can really try to push off of that. Then it allows me, if I'm dropping, to open up and drop to the flats. So that's all my preference. But then again, at the same time, you look at somebody like Von Miller, he's going to have that same foot up every single time because he's most comfortable with it. So at the same time, if it inhibits your guys from doing their job, then I say keep it simple. But my clinic answer would be inside foot up.
There you go. Coach Thigpen says, shout out to my guy Volz. Had to show some love.
Oh, yeah, that's my boy.
Awesome stuff. Anybody else? Last minute questions? Appreciate everybody, jumping on board here and giving Coach some of your time today, and obviously to Coach Volz for jumping on and giving us a great presentation today. A ton of great drills, awesome stuff, awesome information. And like you said, reach out, talk some ball, or even send those recruits over, man. This is where we're at. We were talking before you guys got on here, how you got to do stuff like that, man. And,
oh, yeah. Especially if you guys got some quarterback huggers, man. I'm always looking for those guys.
There you go, right? So, all right, Coach. Well, once again, man, thank you so much for spending some time with us, man, and putting this together and jumping on. And thank you to all the coaches who joined in.
Absolutely. And thank you for everything you're doing. This is an awesome series and been absolutely phenomenal during this hardship.